The Indiana Pacers have kicked off NBA trade deadline 2024 in a major way. They're getting Pascal Siakam from the Toronto Raptors. This thing will end up breaking down to a 3-team trade. Look, the details of the trade are pretty simple. Bruce Brown, Jordan Rohrer, and 3 first-round picks are all heading to Toronto from Indiana. The Pelicans are going to give Kira Lewis Jr. and a second-round pick over to Toronto as well. But let's not bury the lead. The big elephant is the Indiana Pacers adding Siakam, who is in a contract year, to a team that had been relevant this year, if nothing else. You know, the Indiana Pacers had a loud first month of the season because they did make the in-season tournament final. But if you've been watching the Pacers, they have pretty much been up and down. They can score with anybody in the league, but their defense is pretty bad in a lot of those games where they score a lot of points. It's not like they're winning these games by 20, 30 points more times than not. They're able to score with anybody when they're at their best, but they're losing some of these high-scoring affairs as well. You bring in a guy in Pascal Siakam, which in theory, he can slow things down a few possessions, be a factor on the defensive end of the court. You know, Pascal played his first 8 seasons in Toronto with the Raptors. People forget that he was the second fiddle in Toronto when they did win that 2019 NBA championship with Kawhi leading the ship. So for Pascal, this gives him an opportunity to compete for something again. The Raptors had pretty much been out of the fold the day that they lost Kawhi Leonard after that one magical season. You know, from a fit standpoint, I look at Siakam as a guy that can play off the ball. And if you're playing with Tyrese Halliburton, once he gets back from injury, you're going to be off the ball. I think Indiana, if you look at what has happened over the last 18 months, you couldn't have scripted this a better way. Let's not forget the Pacers were in the Miles Turner, Buddy Hield-esque trade talks with a few different teams. Remember the Lakers and Russell Westbrook. And then we go from there into the DeAndre Ayton potential signing with the sign and trade with the Suns. That doesn't happen because Phoenix randomly in like the midnight hour decided to give Ayton a big time extension. You keep Miles Turner, and he's been pretty good for you this year. You keep Buddy Hield. He's been pretty good shooting the basketball this year for you. And obviously Halliburton is just taking things to incredible new heights since he's come over in the Sabonis trade. We'll see how this Siakam trade works. Again, 3 first-round picks in today's NBA is a lot, especially for a guy that appears to not be re-signing with the Pacers before this season is up. He's going to test free agency. That's been like the biggest hindrance in any Pascal Siakam trade, is that he and his representation have let it be known he wants to try out free agency. Now, again, with the Pacers bringing him over, they got a 3 to 4, 5 month head start to convince him on Indiana and convince him on Pacers basketball. We'll see if Siakam ever gets to free agency for real, right? Will the Pacers be able to lock this dude up as soon as the season ends, whenever it is for the Pacers? They hope it's in the finals, just like they got to the in-season tournament finals. Obviously, they hope to win this bad boy. We shall see. I look at them now as a team that can not only compete in a first-round series with Pascal Siakam, they can win a first-round series. They can be one of 4 teams remaining in the Eastern Conference. Whether you think the Celtics and Bucks are clearly number 1, number 2, then usually we got Joel Embiid and the Sixers making it to the second round. I will now say yes, right there in that second fold of teams out east that can make it to the second round of the Eastern Conference playoffs. I'll say the Pacers acquiring Pascal Siakam puts them at the top of that conversation. That's kind of what I feel about the trade thus far. Again, the NBA is all about acquiring all-star level talents. If you look at the new apron cap rule in the NBA, it has become incredibly harder for teams to acquire third stars, which I believe is a big reason why this trade got done. The Pacers had assets, if we're being honest about the Bruce Brown thing. He didn't work out the way a lot of Indiana fans and their representation and team thought he would work out. They also got a lot better than what was expected of them thus far this year. which kind of made the Bruce Brown thing not work as much. You bring in a guy like Bruce Brown to kick off the rebuild, or when you're in championship contention, i.e. like the Denver Nuggets were last year, he's one of the missing pieces. Not where the Pacers are at right now, where they're close to being a serious contender out east. They're definitely not in rebuild mode, but they're still not in championship contention mode. You give a guy like that some adequate money, right, middle of the pack type of money. He's one of the guys that's got to go. He was eligible to be traded, obviously, in the winter, right? He just become eligible to be traded. So you look at everything. I think the Raptors made out well with Pascal. Again, they were going to lose him for nothing anyway. The jury's going to be out for what I think of the Pacers trading 3 first-round picks to get Pascal. The jury will be out. I got to be honest with you guys. The jury is still out on that one just because, if Siakam decides to go elsewhere, let's say the Pacers get bounced in 5 games in the first round, and you lose out on Siakam, and you now don't have Bruce Brown, and you lost those first-round picks, which, as we've seen from Indiana over the last few years, they have been drafting pretty darn well. That will be a huge bummer with a young team that's been growing their situation through the draft. That will be a bummer, but hey, man, they got some pieces. I'm curious to see where this puts Bennedict Mathurin, a young up-and-coming stud that's been playing pretty good ball this year, highlight reel type of dude. Where does this put Obi Toppin, that seemingly had found himself a home in Indiana following his New York run? Somebody's got to come out of the game, all right? Somebody's minutes are going to decline because Siakam is definitely going to be in mode of whatever he wants. Like, this is the time for Siakam to demand as many minutes as he wants, to demand whatever role he wants, because the Raptors got 3 first-round picks from the Pacers, which means Indiana's got to do whatever it takes to court this dude before the end of this season, and his plan of entering free agency hits fruition. All right, time, love, and support. Also, real quick before we get up out of here, I would be remiss to not bring up the biggest story in the NBA, even though there was a big trade in the NBA. Basketball family lost an assistant coach of the Golden State Warriors, Mr. Dejan Milojevic, the Warriors' current assistant coach, one of them at least, did pass away at the age of 46. It is being reported by TMZ and ESPN that it was due to a heart attack. The Warriors were in Utah to play a basketball game against the Jazz. That game has been postponed. From what I've read up on Mr. Milojevic, he is a guy that paid his dues in Serbia. He was a head coach over there. He made his way to the States, where he was a guy that went through the G League. He paid the dues, made his way over to that Warriors staff under Steve Kerr's tutelage, and it is just a darn shame that this dude is gone too soon at the age of 46. Prayers to that man's family, and we got a huge Serbian audience, so if there's anybody listening affected by his passing in a major way, I'm sending my condolences to you and anybody associated with Mr. Dejan Milojevic. Warriors Jazz game canceled for obvious reasons. When this story broke earlier in the morning, you could just tell it was serious. It broke pretty quickly here. We went from in the hospital to game canceled to passing. And that just tells you how fleeting and quick life can be for anybody. I tell people all the time, one of the pleasures of covering basketball versus I cover music as well. Music is just a wild, wild west a lot of times. Basketball players and coaches, they live long lives. You rarely hear news like this, right? Like, basketball players live long lives. And to hear, a man taking, a man now, won't be with his family anymore at age 46 is just sad. So prayers to anybody affected by that one. Time, love, and support is what I would never take for granted. All right. Big time trade in the NBA, but definitely some bigger news there with the Warriors losing one of their assistant coaches. All right. Time, love, support. I am out.